They arrived without warning. They hid where no one would look.
Are you okay, Dad?
Everything's fine now.
I'm going, Dad!
They're after the one person on Earth who knows who they are.
David Gardner!
And what they've become. Invaders from Mars, rated PG.
Invaders from Mars starts Friday at a theater near you.
And welcome back, everybody. That's Suns and Shadows Cast presenting our review series. We have finally adopted a name. It's called 0 Point Reviews. Take that as you wish. We're coming back this time with Invaders from Mars. Kevin and I are talking about this one this time, and I don't know, Kev. I had a fun time watching this one, even though it's not what you would expect from a Tobe Hooper film.
No, I wasn't really quite sure what to expect. I walked into this one blind. I'd never seen it before and looked up nothing about it prior to just watching it today.
All right.
So at the very beginning, when I saw Tobe Hooper's name, I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but I knew I had expectations of being somewhat scared.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of a diverse filmography. You either are going to get straight up horror or you're really not sure what you might get at times.
Schlock.
Hey, I think he's a fun director. I think this one just kind of was like outside of his realm of outside of his lane a little bit, you could say. Even in one of the, because I watched the extra credits on this off of the Shout Factory Blu-ray, it's right up there. I would say he made a comment that, you know, a lot of people went into this probably expecting horror because of my name, and that backfired on me.
Yeah. I don't know what people really expected of him after Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, to a point that was cute.
Yeah.
And then it did have that horror element to it. And this felt a lot like Poltergeist. Like they straight up took scenes from Poltergeist, scene angles from Poltergeist. The set from his room to the parents' room, I believe, is the set of Poltergeist.
It certainly felt like it to me anyway.
I'm pretty sure it was. I know the exterior of the house was not,
Right.
but the inside, I think, was the set of Poltergeist. The room felt very much like the kids' room from Poltergeist, just without all the Star Wars stuff on there.
Yeah, pretty much.
But there was a Rancor in the background, if you caught it. So there was that reference. But there was no horror per se. I mean, it had some grossness to it, but the horror is more psychological.
Yeah, it had elements to being a horror film, but since it was more of a family friendly sort of thing, it didn't really stick the landing on it. But you know, like you said, there's some grossness to it, some creepiness to it, so it definitely had some good vibes going. If it had been more of like a traditional Tobe Hooper film, like a real good hardcore horror film, man, this was not the right approach to take for that. But I think he could have done something really unique if they had gone that route. But you know, it just didn't work out like that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the scenes that I think probably the best scene in the whole movie to really get psychologically in your head and make you feel fear is when the kid's going into the class office and going down the hallway to look for the teacher.
Right.
And just the way that they film that angle, you feel claustrophobic. So that it kind of builds that anxiety on the viewer.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's about as scary as it got from there.
Yeah.
After that, the teacher was kind of like Mrs. Umbridge, which we've already survived. So
yeah. This is very true. Now, what did you think of, like, say, like the overall plot of this? Do you think it moved along pretty good, focusing on like David and the teacher, or no, I'm sorry, the nurse? Or how did you, well, David, the nurse, and the teacher were basically the main core of this movie.
Yeah. I don't know. So the pacing there, it felt like they got to where there should be starting to see more action, where the nurse has seen the Martians, she believes David, and now they're running from the Martians. That's only just halfway to the film.
Right.
And so there was another 45, 50 minutes beyond that part where you're just kind of like, there was a lot of chasing, uh a lot of unnecessary, I don't want to say weirdness, but yeah,
Right.
there kind of was. This movie was a bit goofy in parts.
Yeah.
Mrs. Umbridge was pretty goddamn goofy. But you
Oh
know
my
what?
God. Yeah.
I will say that was the scariest classroom scene I have seen since Child's Play 2. Like, she is bar none second to Beth Grant. That was pretty cool.
That was some wicked stuff going on right there.
Yeah, she did really well. Like, I'd say next to her, Beth Grant, and I don't know the actor's name that plays one of the spirits in the Insidious movies, like just really scary type. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was all I had for that one.
Oh, no problem. I guess for me, like, I can't get over how much this was of a kids movie
Yeah,
as opposed to a horror movie. I mean, we've already kind of briefly touched upon that, but I will say I liked the special effects in this movie. Like, the practical effects were outstanding. There was like barely CGI at this time. I mean, there was a little bit of it, thank you to like The Last Starfighter, but we were not along those sort of like that or like Tron lines. But like the special effects for the ship were fantastic. Whatever
yeah,
they had to do for that. And then the creature designs were great because they had the Stan Winston company working on this. But it was funny in the extras again, they brought up that Stan was, while working on this, was asked to come over and do Aliens for James Cameron, and he had to get permission from Tobe Hooper to then go over there. And Toby's like, "Well, I can't stand in his way. He just go, just go ahead and do it. Just make sure you have your staff here to continue finishing this film," and they did. So it was really neat to hear that Stan Winston worked both this and Aliens technically at the same time.
yes. And I noticed that while I was watching. I was like, this came out the same year that Aliens came out,
Yeah,
and the set design looks just like Aliens on the inside.
just a little
uh,
bit.
the HR Geiger designs. Now, it's not as intricate as Aliens was,
Right.
but the tunneling systems, that was very much, I don't want to say the same thing, but it was kind of a bear down set. Just needed a little bit more to be the same thing.
Yeah, like same principle of, but they took like different ways to achieve that effect.
Yes. Now, had I not seen Aliens before this, I would have been much more impressed.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have anything taken away from the visual department.
Right. No, I completely agree. Now, is there anything else about this movie that kind of struck your fancy or not your fancy?
Oh, there was the credits.
What? You didn't like the Superman swoop?
Okay, yes, that was actually my very first note. My very first note. Dope intro, reminiscent of Superman.
Yep.
Second note, James Karen means quality, quality assured. Oh God, was I wrong about that?
Oh, he did. I think he did just fine. When I first saw him, I don't recognize a whole lot of name actors. Like, I can recognize faces and I'll be like, I know that person from that movie, but I don't know that person's real name. He's one of those where it's like, oh, the guy from Return of the Living Dead. Sweet. Tobe
Yeah,
Hooper must totally like a lot of these people that he's working with. So that was fun to see.
yeah, because I mean James Karen, God, he's been in everything with everyone.
A lot.
I mean, that's why I say, like, quality assured. He never gives a shitty performance, even when
No.
he's being cheesy. Because God, both Return of the Living Dead movies, Ali acknowledged to, both of the Return of the Living Dead movies, he is quite cheesy as shit, and he owns it. He hams it up, and
Yeah.
he's just great. When we met Tom Matthews, he even said that, like, he's just 110%,
Oh, yeah.
but
Completely.
having fun with it too.
Well, yeah, I
Um,
mean, as long as you can have something to like sink your teeth into and
mhm.
really enjoy what you do as a craft, like, why not? I mean, yes, it's a paying gig, but you're also getting paid to screw around with aliens and actual Marines, in some scenes. That's fantastic because they actually included like legit Marines and they were super happy to participate with like the big lighting grid and everything that was coming up with their attack on the alien ship at the end. I'm like, because that looked really good. Like
It did.
it was either they knew somebody who could teach these people how to do this, or they legitimately got these people to do this because that was some on point like formations and complete like overwhelming of the ship.
Yeah, it really was. And did Spielberg have his ties to the military? Not ties, but his relationship with working with the military at that point yet?
I don't know actually, to be honest.
Because that could have been a favor pulled in, because Spielberg was attached to this before Hooper came in, I believe.
Oh, I never caught that.
I think that was the case.
Okay.
So there might have been, like with War of the Worlds, there might have been some assistance from one director passing it off to the next.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Or at least they laid like the foundation for it and or started a relationship before they bowed out.
Yeah. But the one thing I will absolutely say I'm very glad that I watched this movie for was the Stan Winston creature effects.
Oh yeah.
I had the pleasure of meeting him once.
Oh, you
And
did.
yes, I'll put the picture in the Facebook group once this goes live.
Yeah.
He was an absolute sweetheart of a man. It was at Comic-Con in 2001,
Okay.
San Diego Comic-Con.
Right.
And I've been standing in line for like 20, 30 minutes maybe. And he was being cordial to each and every person that came through. And these two young ladies that were still in high school asked if they could interview him later for their school newspaper.
Oh,
And he stopped the line and he gave an interview to the two young ladies right there. And I'm like, what a fucking guy. That's awesome.
right.
Totally awesome.
He's always been good with his fans.
Yeah. And was totally attentive, like gave his full attention to them. Didn't care that the line was still fucking growing.
He was probably going to sit there until the line was done anyway.
Yes, he would have, because he's just, like I said, he was a giant sweetheart.
Yeah.
And if you didn't want to like sit and wait, because personally, me, I got to sit and listen to these neat stories he was telling.
Yeah.
But if you're kind of a dumb shit and didn't want to listen to a master's stories, you could look at all these beautiful things that they had on display, like the exoskeleton, the T-800.
Oh, nice.
The Predator he had there, an alien that they had there, like some amazing shit. And I wish they would have had something from this movie, because that like Krang looking thing,
Yeah.
like
Supreme Leader, I think it was called.
yeah, that thing was glorious. Why couldn't they have fucking just reused that for the Ninja Turtles movie?
Oh.
Yeah, like it was really neat. And the two fucking wonky things, I don't even know what the Martians, I guess, for as stupid as those really were, they looked cool.
Yeah, that was pretty wicked. I guess there was like two people manning those suits too. So it took like two people to actually like make that mobile. The wonders of practical effects from back in the day.
Right. And editing.
Yeah, lots and lots of editing. You needed a good editor on this one.
There was a lot of reverse shots in this movie.
Yeah.
A lot of reverse shots, and it showed.
Yes, it did. I actually wrote that down here too.
Like with the sand. I mean, we've seen that pulled off gloriously. Just what, 2 years, 3 years later on Tremors.
Well, yeah, I have that note down here too. It was like there's a couple Tremors moments in this movie.
Yeah, I want to say there is moments in this movie that other directors picked from. Just the way I said, we see scenes that he kind of picked from Poltergeist. That we know, we don't know who may or may not have directed all that, but
This is true.
Yeah, there were good shots or good angles that very much felt the same.
Yeah.
So, but then you've got people that pick apart things now, like the Krang or the Supreme thing that did look like what turned into Krang in the abomination of the Michael Bay movies.
Oh,
But this looked fucking 1,000% cooler because it was fucking real. Like its eyes moved, its mouth moved.
Yes, very true.
It was just cool. Now, because all that looked fucking amazing, everything else suffered horribly. Like there's a lot of vibes that came from Plan 9 in this movie.
Okay.
Like set backgrounds, you're kind of like, is that real wood or is that just a
Hmm.
blanket?
Yeah, I got that feeling with like the fake cave. Like the cave was sealed over, and I'm like, okay, yep, the definitely a product of its time.
And God bless her. I love her to pieces. My birthday buddy, Lorraine Newman. They Raymond Bird her in one shot, and you're just kind of like, oh, it's painfully obvious. It's
Oh
not.
yeah.
That's not her. Oh God. And
Whoops.
the guys, I don't even think he's there because fucking
Yeah.
Karen Black is just not looking proportionate in the background.
Right.
But I love Karen Black.
She was great, I thought.
She's never given a bad performance, even in things like this or Killer Fish, which was
Right.
an amazing episode of Mystery Science Theater.
Yep.
She's or Mother Firefly, which is how I mainly know her.
Right.
She's just fucking awesome. She always gave 110, and movies are poor without her today.
Yeah. She was what stood out for me. I know that the actor who played David was probably instructed to act like how he did.
That's her son.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was like, no, well, it's all right. I can put up with him. He was not as annoying as I thought most characters
No.
like that in movies at that point were. So I give him points that at least I wasn't annoyed by his character. I just think they could have done more with him, but I want to say the ending for me with him is what stuck the landing for me of actually liking this movie rather than being like, why the hell is this in my collection? Because I barely remember this from the VHS days. And so watching this for the first time again in so many years was like, okay, this is turning off cool. And then it's okay, okay. And then we get to the ending and I'm like, okay, that was good.
Well, that ending, it was very reminiscent of the end of Nightmare on Elm Street,
Right.
where Nancy wakes up, mom's okay, dad's okay, Glenn's okay, she goes off to school, and then bang, Freddy comes out.
Yep.
So I mean, but I want to say this was kind of done a little bit better because it wasn't so drawn out.
Right.
This felt like, oh gosh, was this all really a dream? And it progressed
Really
fast
felt
enough.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I did like that. There is a lot to like about this movie if you
Yeah.
expect going in expecting it to be cheesy. We did not, and
No.
we got what we deserved. It's a good Stan Winston creature feature.
Oh
And
yeah.
and Karen Black and James Karen carry the movie.
This made me want to go watch like Pumpkinhead now, oddly enough.
That's a good one though.
That could be in time for our Halloween. Don't know.
Maybe we have to pick more Halloween movies. I had to ask my wife, what movies center around Halloween that aren't Halloween movies? What are Halloween movies that aren't Halloween?
Or involve Michael Myers.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, my first pick was, of course, Ernest. We talked about that.
Right.
And she's like, Hocus Pocus. I'm like, no.
No.
No. I'll ask.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, okay, so any other thoughts about this? I think the only other thought
No,
from me
no.
about Invaders from Mars is I know there were some issues regarding the score initially. Like it had been pulled, replaced, whatnot. It was kind of mentioned in the extras again. However, I thought it was pretty good for what it was. And so I really enjoyed it, really appreciated it. I thought it gave it a little extra oomph. So yeah, it wasn't a Texas Chainsaw Massacre score. It wasn't one of his goofier scores that he's had in his movies for Tobe. So I mean, hey, Tobe Hooper, he was a good director. He definitely had some classics, and he's had a few few hits and misses here and there. I don't know. For me, I would go middle of the road. I'd give this a thumbs up, but know what you're walking into with it at the minimum. Like, don't think, oh, Invaders from Mars. Man, that looks like a good horror movie just based on like the poster alone, which will be part of our credits. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see the trailer, and it does give you the vibe that this is not a typical horror movie. This is more low-key horror movie, or just more sci-fi.
Now, did this come out before or after The Brain, the Canadian film?
I don't know. That's a good question.
That's an MST question. I'd have to ask them.
Hey, Misties, put it in the comments below, please.
And comparing this movie, this is very much like Making Contact.
Yeah.
The only thing that Making Contact doesn't have that this movie did was Stan Winston.
Right.
It's got the rest of the cheese factor to it, but definitely see it for Stan Winston's creatures.
Yes.
See it for James Caron if you like him, because again, no bad performances.
No.
It was fun. The more I talk about it, the more I can say this movie was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was bad, but a good bad.
Yes.
That's why I give it a thumbs up, because like it is a fun movie.
Oh no, I still gave it a 3 out of 10 on IMDb.
Hey, you could give it, like, if you're looking at it like from a legit scoring point, I'd probably go 4 to 5 out of 10. But I'm more thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, or thumbs down.
I'd say thumbs in the middle, because there's a lot to like about it. There is some suspense. There's no gore, so I mean it is kid friendly. The kids,
especially if you're an older nurse.
Yeah,
it's not so kid friendly these days, but back then this is what was considered okay for sensibilities at that time.
I had that written down too, like, don't give student your home address, ex-nay. Call me.
Yeah.
I had one more thing. What the hell was it? Oh, my summation of this flick is there is something that makes this movie not a bad movie.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure what it is.
Right.
I couldn't find the one thing that makes this just not a bad movie. It is worth a watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's riffable 100%, but it's
worth
a watch.
Calling out to Misties. If you're gonna get a season 14, why not?
Yeah, right. Is this still a shout feature?
I would think so. I think the Blu-ray is out of print though. I'm not entirely positive about that. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if you want to look for that and it seems like the price is high, it's probably because it's out of print.
Yeah, I love those.
But yeah, me neither. I actually got this a few years ago when it was affordable.
I would not pay more than $20 for this movie. That's just me personally.
I paid, it was either $11.99 or $12.99.
That's not too shabby.
No, and I got this about a couple years ago. So
that's cool. That's cool.
No slipcovers. So if you're into the Scream Factory physical media line, this did not come with a slipcover originally. So it's not one of those.
Well, that's a bummer.
Well, some of their cover arts are kind of suspect. I don't like half of them. They look pretty stupid, but they also nail it every once in a while. So
I don't know. The only one I really have that I absolutely love, because I haven't messed with the Burbs yet, was, like I said, Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah,
because it has Mr. Vance's artwork on the inside, and I'm like, oh, it's fantastic.
Well, those are tremendous. The one I like is the They Live slipcover when it first came out from Scream Factory a few years ago.
Oh yeah,
because it's got Roddy with like rocking the 8-pack. So it's like, yeah, Roddy Piper with an 8-pack. He did not have that in the movie.
No.
the infamous hand-drawn arts where you give them more chisels than they really got.
Well, we've talked about that with Steve about Bruce Campbell on the cover of Army of Darkness.
Oh yeah,
with that chest flowing open and stuff like that,
and waiting for the long mane to grow out of his head.
Right, the Fabio shot.
Yep, Fabio.
Yeah, watch this with your kids.
It's okay with your kids. Don't worry. It's not that bad.
Yeah, don't watch this to get scared. This is a Friday night near Halloween type movie. It's perfect for that with popcorn, turn the lights
Yes.
off. It's a fun kind of jump scare type movie for the kids.
Yep. Popcorn flick is what I like to call these.
Yeah, but it's not going to scare the shit out of them like when we were kids and we got like Creep Show 2.
Yeah.
Like my son has no idea the shit I saw before he was like 7 now.
Oh yeah. I would be in the same boat. Because I saw some crazy movies like we got admitted for this, so I'll just say, like, when I was a little kid, my babysitter at the time took me because she wanted to see her boyfriend. I got snuck into Nightmare on Elm Street and a Swamp Thing, and the very first Swamp Thing movie. So
Yay, a Craven double feature.
yeah, so Swamp Thing scared the crap out of me because he had the arm growing scene, and then Nightmare on Elm Street. All I remember is just closing my eyes for half the movie.
I
Those
thought
were
you were talking
technically
about
my
the
first
arms
four-
growing out for Tina.
Yeah. Those were technically my first forays into horror, but that was before I understood what they were and if they were any good or not. It was my dad showing me Phantasm later on that I'm like, oh, that was cool. And I love the car. It's a Hemikuda. So from that point on, it became horror's one of my jams.
It is my jam. That and MCU. Like if it's not superheroes, it's got to have monsters in it. Otherwise, I'm kind of like, okay, let's see where this is going. I have 3 minutes of my attention.
Yep.
My dad really insisted with the 30s movies, Frankenstein, Dracula, things like
the
that.
classics, yeah.
But when I was 7, so yeah, this was around 87. I was just, for whatever reason, because my older cousin liked it, just infatuated with wanting to see Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
And my mom wanting to prove a point because it was embarrassing them that I was so infatuated with this franchise.
Yeah.
That she sat me down by myself in the dark and popped in the video. She borrowed it from her boss.
Oh.
And she says, after you watch this, you're going to eat your words. And like, if someone's like filming my life, you would have been just like, watch the doughy eyes watching the screen, and you would have heard love music.
I'll eat those words with some ketchup.
I literally did put a fucking set of plate and fork and knife. She was fucking pissed.
Oh, well, oops.
Yeah. And it was love from there.
Yep. Backfire City.
Yeah. If it had latex in it, because see, nothing was gross to me. I knew it was. I liked the art of latex and special effects.
Yeah.
So that's why it didn't bother me. It wasn't a sadistic thing. That was art to me.
Yeah, that stuff is very fascinating. That's probably the sole reason I got in. I had like a subscription to Fangoria, or I would pick them up from the bookstore whenever I could back then.
I had to hide those. My parents were very keeping up with the Joneses, and
yeah,
you know how parents in the 80s were.
Oh yeah, I know. That was my parents too. I mean, I have some of the newer Fangorias over here, but none of the older ones are still kind of in storage at my dad's house.
Oh, cool.
Don't nice let to pull them out one day. Yeah.
Yeah, just don't expose them to the like sunlight and.
Oh yeah, they got to stay in like the cave.
They're degrading. I
better not submit them to get graded by like whatever grading authority it is. I'll probably get like a 4 out of 100, and they ain't worth nothing.
Oh, CGC, fuck them. They ruin the fun of fucking comic book collecting. I'm sorry.
Nope, that's okay. Don't apologize. It's the end of the episode anyway. So thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time with another and some sort of Mars invasion flick. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at sunsandshadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.